All right, so today's podcast, I am joined by a multi-award winning entrepreneur, owns multiple businesses, extremely well known in the local community here in Birmingham, and he does some really phenomenal work. And I'm really, really honored that he's actually agreed to come on the podcast with me for potentially 2 episodes where we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, business, because I know that for many people who listen to this podcast, this is a really big thing that they focus on. We've all learned through COVID that we can't rely on one source of income. So typically the day job really doesn't necessarily cut it. And there is no better person to talk about entrepreneurship, business than the man himself, True Powell. Welcome.
Wow. Thank you for such an amazing introduction. I'm honored to just be here and be on your amazing platform. Thank you.
Nah, not a problem at all. So why don't you give the audience a little bit of a background introduction to you?
Yes, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is True Powell. As you quite rightly said, I'm an award-winning entrepreneur. I have multiple different businesses, ranging from the creative sector through to a community organisation, through to a consultancy business. So I help entrepreneurs with their personal brands and getting visible in the press. I also run a children's salon spa, and I also run a performing arts academy for young people, which is a social enterprise. And in and amongst all that, I operate and run a podcast like yourself called the Creative Entrepreneurs, and run several different events, and and just have a really good time doing it.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, literally, the podcast that you're speaking of, he literally he's done the first season.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
you had some mega guests on there. And it went really, really well. It's a great, great podcast. If you've not listened to it, go and listen to it because it's absolutely amazing. So you've got a number of different businesses, as you just kind of rolled off there. Talk to me about how you actually got started in business. Has it always been something that you knew you were going to go into business, or did you kind of work in a fully employed role, then decide, well, actually, this isn't for me, I'm going to go into business?
I'm not one of those that say that, entrepreneurship and business and so forth. I was selling sweets in the playground and doing all of that at a very young age and blah, blah, blah. And whilst I did have entrepreneurialism inside of me at a young age, I actually followed the rat race. I went to school, went to college, went to uni, got my grades, went into work, full-time work. And I actually thought that was the route for me. And it was just very much up until the year 2014. And I know we're going to speak about a side hustle later on, but up until the year of 2014, I was working in an events capacity. So I was working as an event manager for several different organizations. And actually, one of the organizations that I was working for at that point wanted me to do international events, which was fine. It was a contract that I bargained for. And I was all around the world doing international events. But I had a young family at the time, and I just felt I didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I just kind of said from the whim that I was leaving, like just off the cuff. And then I had to follow through, because those of you who know me, I don't take back the talks. If I say that I'm leaving, then I have to leave and follow through. And literally that's kind of how it started. And the moment that I said I was leaving, I was looking for another job, looking everywhere, and I just couldn't find anything that was resonating with me. And my mentor at the time was like, you just need to run your own company. Like, you just need to run your own event management company. And I was like, me? My own company? Like, how? And it was like, well, you kind of do it already, because you're working full-time, but you're also running your performing arts academy, which at the time was a community interest organisation. But I always just looked at that as a hobby. It's singing, it's dancing, it's performance. Yes, we do a few commercial things, but that's just that's not my bread and butter.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, and then he literally broke it down for me. Do you have staff and pay them? I was like, yeah. He was like, do you have to file your taxes? I was like, yeah. He was like, do you have to create policies and procedures and systemize business? I was like, well, yeah. And he was like, you run a business? And in that moment, it just clicked to me. I was like, well, yes, I was running a business, although I didn't see it as such, because it wasn't bringing in a wage that could occupy me full time. it was still a business. And it was like, those skills are just as transferable to your limited business, what you're doing for this social enterprise. And I tell you what, I'll help you. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He was like, I'm going to do all your branding work for you. I'm going to do all your website for you. I'm going to give you all your stationery, and I'm going to give you your first job. And at the time, my mentor was a guy that worked for Trinity Mirror, which is the main media regulator for the Midlands. So they do Birmingham Mail, Telegraph, Coventry, whatever it was, like that. They kind of manage all of that. So I had the seal of approval from the executive from Trinity Mirror. Shout out to Mark. Do all my branding, everything, literally. So I didn't have to do anything. And he gave me my first job, which was the Well Brum launch. I don't know if you remember that. Birmingham had this campaign called Well Brum. And it was just absolutely amazing. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I've got no choice. I've got to do it. So that's kind of my kind of entrance into full-time kind of self-employment and full-time running a business. And then just along the way, I guess entrepreneurialism started to come out a little bit more. And I used to be like, okay, I want to try this. I want to do that. And I was like, yeah, we want to launch a kids salon. No one's done it before. So we just kind of was like, yeah, we'll do that. And yeah, it just kept growing and growing and growing, and the businesses just kept coming. And then I just had to make sure that we had systems, we had processes, and we had good staff that could manage the business. And I would just be the ideas man behind it and drive it and do the marketing and the branding and so forth. But kind of that's how it started. And then during the pandemic, I realized because all my businesses, silly mistake, first blunder was all experience-led businesses. There wasn't online. There was all in your face. So you had to come into the salon and be treated. The event management business, you obviously had to have a physical event. And the commercial aspect to the Performing Arts Academy, because we were a non-funded entity at the time, was we'd done a lot of corporate events and entertainment and performing here, there, and everywhere, and that was our income, and that was all gone. Obviously, of course, as COVID. So in the end, I was like, you know what, I have to pivot. So I then decided that I was going to help up-and-coming entrepreneurs with their personal brands and getting visible. And again, for those of you who don't know me, you might have seen me, I don't know, on your TV screens, talking on Good Morning Britain. I'm a frequent guest commentator there. I do a lot of commentating on different media channels and news channels, whether it's Sky News, ITV, BBC. I've done it all. I've been featured multiple times in newspapers. I know how to garner press and how to get press for your brand and for yourself. And I just thought, this is knowledge that people will pay for. So I packaged that, branded that, as well as packaged my personal brand experience. And now I help entrepreneurs with their personal brand, and quickly shifted that to an online consultancy business, which, by the way, has just catapulted and just done beyond what I could even dream or imagine.
And that really brings us on to kind of like, because you've mentioned there pivoting and realizing things, the realities of entrepreneurship. Because I think social media is great. Like, I'm on social media. Social media is my platform, really. My business is online. It's great for being able to touch and connect people. But untruths and this perception that things are way easier than they actually are is prevalent across social media. How have you found the realities of entrepreneurship on your journey and just coping with that?
Oh, child. Oh, my goodness me. I love this question. I love it because it's reality, and I'm not afraid to say that. I've found it so difficult. I've cried. I've had breakdowns of numerous occasions. Well, like, I'm packing it in. Numerous occasions, picked up my laptop, went on company's house and started to file the closure of the, like, literally, it's been difficult. The pandemic, that was the most difficult time of all, because I literally was at breaking point. 2018, I had a phenomenal year. We delivered some incredible events. Candy Girl was on the rise. We was in the process of franchising the model. We had franchisees available, ready to just sign. Like, the Performing Arts Academy was just doing bits in terms of just here, there, and everywhere. Like, and the projections for 2020 was looking even better.
And then COVID.
The realization of COVID hit me a week before we went into lockdown. Before that, I was like, oh, no,
It's no big deal. It's
no
gonna be
big
all
deal.
right. Yeah.
Like, but that period, it was one of the worst periods of my whole entire business career. And I just remember saying, right, okay, I can't do nothing about these businesses. I mean, we pivoted the salon, and we created Homegirl rather than Candy Girl, and we were going into people's homes. That got messy when all the restrictions and stuff came in, but whatever. Then I decided, which was probably one of the best decisions actually, to just completely stop with the events. And the reason why I decided that, because I didn't want to do anything that I didn't want. And I had multiple kind of streams of income, and I knew I could pivot and do different things. And I thought, I don't want to do online events. I'm not doing online events. I think online events are whack. And no offense to those who do online events.
Online event that you had online event fatigue
Yeah.
after a while.
Like,
It's a lot.
I don't want to do it. Like, I like live events, and the thought of me trying to work something out and do stuff and pivot, like, it was a headache. And I was like, actually, I'm just stopping and I'm leaving that alone. And I just allowed God to, and you'll know that I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a Christian, and I believe in God, and I believe that God really does guide my path. And I stopped, and I prayed, and I became still, and I allowed myself to hear God's voice, and I just said, what direction do you want me to go in, and how do you want me to pursue this? And because I was still, I started to take a lot of media inquiries. So literally, I was being called every other day to speak on Good Morning Britain or ITV or BBC, whether it was about COVID, whether it was about, ethnic minorities being subject to COVID more, or whether it was about some of the racial inequalities when George Floyd happened. Like, literally, I was being called every other day.
And I just have to say, on that point, I watched you talk about the whole George Floyd saga, because obviously that happened during COVID.
Yeah.
And I love the position that you took with it, because I think there are certain things that need to be said in the mainstream that you did not shy away from. And I think that translates to business as well.
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes things need to be said and decisions need to be made, and they may not necessarily be popular decisions or popular things to say, but they need to be said. You have to follow the convictions that you carry with you.
Amen. And it's so true. It's so true. And I think the time for being palatable, the time for being liked, the time for being, accepted, or that need for wanting to be accepted is had to go out the window. And it's the same in business. Like, it's not about being palatable. It's not about being liked. It's not about kind of doing what you feel like you need to do to be accepted. It's about making really harsh decisions. It's about making calculated risk, and it's about really, even if people don't like it, my staff don't like the decisions that I make all the time, but they respect and they trust that I'm making the right decision. And I think that's really, really key.
Yeah.
And I think that's important that they know that I'm doing it in the best interest of the business, which in turn is
in their best interest
in
as
their
well.
best interest.
Absolutely.
So it's a really valid point that you've just raised. It really is. Be unapologetic, and that's really key. You've got to be unapologetic, and you've got to be confident in your own ability that you're going to deliver. And even if people think that you're making wayward decisions, or even if people think that you're not making the right decision, that's on them. I mean, always take counsel. I always take counsel, whether it's from my wife, or whether it's from a mentor, or whether it's from one of my business partners, or what. I always take counsel before I make any large decision. But ultimately, the decision is down to me, and I would step up to the plate and make that decision, and I would then be accountable for the downfall or the uprising of
Well,
that decision.
ultimately, everyone's going to is always responsible for their own things. I think when it comes to business, though, and it's interesting you recounting the whole COVID saga and how that's impacted businesses, because that is pretty much the same for a lot of people, and people have experienced it in different ways. I mean, I started this because I had no choice but to. In the beginning of 2020, I was headhunted from a DFM here in Birmingham to head up a national project for another wealth management company. I thought, yeah, great, I'll be able to use a different skill set. March comes along, and it's like, well, you were the first in, well, the last in, so you're going to be the first out. And I knew that. And I knew immediately that people weren't going to be recruiting because of the severity of what we were being faced with. And so everything started as a result of that. I was lucky I kind of started in January without really knowing it was going to happen in March. But you really do have to follow your heart and your convictions a lot of the time. Do you think there are certain things that have contributed to your success in business that if you could pinpoint maybe one or two things, what would you say they are?
100%, 100%. So one of the main things that have contributed to my success is my network. I have built a really solid network, particularly in the Midlands and particularly with the business community. And it's interesting because they support you, they want to see you win, and you are, and parents say all the time, you are the company you keep, and you show me your company, and that will tell me who you are, and you're like, and if you surround yourself with like-minded people, if you surround yourself with go-getters, you will become a go-getter, you will become a business person, and you would learn, and my network is incredible, and that's why I think networking is really, really important. And I've learned that at a very, very early age in my business career. I mean, even when Candy Girl was, going through its, going through whatever it was going through during COVID, just a member from a network just called me up and said, "True, I've just put £1,000 in your account," and I'm like, "Why? Like, what have you done that for?" Because I know that Candy Girl is going through something, and this is just a business colleague from the network, and he was like, "I just want to help and support, and you've always been very good and prominent at what you do, and I can see that you need support, and shout out Jimmy Shubias is incredible." It was like, "I'm putting it in your account, send me your details," and I was like, "Oh wow." So I sent him the details. Within the hour,
That's amazing.
£1,000 was in the account, and that contributed to 1 month's rent. And when you're thinking about when you've got serious outgoings, and you've got no income coming in at all, but you're still having to pay your outgoing expenses, so your fixed expenses, your rent, your utility bills, your insurance, and our insurance is, let's not talk about that, but every little bit counts, and I'm just like, that may just keep us open for another month.
Yeah.
And it was just incredible. And that's why I say your network is just important. Not only can you lean on them and get their support, but also you can learn from them, and they can teach you stuff that you didn't know yourself. And I always say, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. You really need to surround yourself with people who are better than you.
Yeah, I'm really, really big on that. And it was one of my goals this year that I want to get into smarter rooms because I just started out on my own. A lot of my network are financial advisors from previous roles. So when it comes to business, it's like, I know for a fact that the network effect is very, very important. Getting in the right rooms with people that are smarter. Coming out of lockdown now is the perfect opportunity to be able to do that. But network, absolutely, I've learned, is absolutely key. So that was the first one. Is there another one that you would pinpoint?
Yeah. So just, I would say, be intentional, and make sure that you strategize, set your objectives. What do you want to achieve? And just be really intentional with everything. So even when I said network, be intentional with your network. You could be out there networking and networking and networking, but it still comes to nothing because you're not doing anything with the networking. So it's just really about being intentional with every facet of your business and every facet of your journey. And I can't stress it enough, like, set your objectives. How is whatever you choose to do, feeding into the overall objectives. What are you going to achieve by doing this one task?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't do that. A lot of business owners, particularly when they're first starting out, they don't do that. They just keep going on, keep on keeping on, and not knowing why they're doing certain tasks. And if we're going to be real about entrepreneurialism and being in business, people see stuff that they see on Instagram or they read a blog or whatever, and they think, oh, this is how I should be doing it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feed in at all to their overall business objectives.
Yeah.
But just because they've seen somebody else doing it, or it's the in thing,
Preach.
or it's the thing that I
Preach.
should be doing because they're doing it.
Preach.
I'm going to do
Preach.
it, and I'm like,
Preach.
is that actually helping you on your journey or feeding into
Yeah.
your business? And we all fall for it. We're living this society where it's this Instagram lifestyle, particularly around business, and everyone's doing stuff, and I'm like, wow, like, how are they there? Like, look what they're doing. Like, they're going to these events and they're doing this, and they've got a MacBook. I need to get a MacBook, and it's just crazy. But actually, is the MacBook going to feed into your overall objectives? Are you going to use the functions of that MacBook? Are you going to use all the detail? And are you going to be running a podcast? And are you going to be using it to edit? And can a normal laptop do whatever you're doing?
I tell you what, man. So much of what you said there feeds into the stuff that I talk about when I talk about investing. Like, people are so quick to go and like copy and buy this stock, and it's like, just pause for a second.
Yeah.
What is your goal? Why? Why do you want to start investing? If you know what your goal is, it dictates the path that you walk.
Absolutely.
And if you don't know what your goal is, you're walking any old path, not really knowing where you're going. And I think that is so, so true with Instagram and social media. It's like, it's not about what the next person is doing. You get into this scenario, it's always about keeping up with the Joneses if you pay attention to that kind of stuff. What matters to you? What is your goal? What is your purpose? What are you trying to achieve? Then you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing as a result of that. And it's so telling of social media and the age that we live in right now.
I tell you, people's businesses die in the first year because of social media, because they think, oh, I need to get the Range Rover, oh, I need to get the office, oh, I need to get you don't need an office. You can work from your bedroom. Like, it's only you. Like, why do you feel like you need to get an office? Because somebody else on social media is like that's indicative of what a business is or what success is. No, go at your own pace, know what you need, and be intentional. Write your objectives and be intentional. It's all about being intentional, and I didn't learn that until I was one of those guys that was just like, right, this is what business is. This is what I need to do, and I was really naive, and I probably didn't learn that until like my second or third year in, and I was like, I don't need my office. Why am I spending £900 a month when
that could literally be
like
it could be other overheads,
absolutely,
other bills that you need to pay with the business.
I was like, I'm paying for an office here. I've got the salon here where I could potentially go and work, but I've got a massive network who have all said, if you need working space, come and see me. Come and set up a desk here. A huge network that have all said, I'll support you with that. So I'm not like, why am I paying for this? And literally, I was like to the staff, guys, we're working from home. And if we need any working days, which we now do, like once every 3-4 weeks, we have like a working day together. We'll just go to one of the networks that I know and say we'll have a working day there.
Yeah.
But for most of the time, we can work from home. And if we need to, we can go into the salon. We've got a back office there that we can work from. It's absolutely fine. But it really is about just understanding, like, do you need this or is it for poppy show? Like, and that's the reality.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some amazing points that you've made there. And I wonder, you talked a lot about, being intentional in your network. I noticed that you mentioned that you actually have a mentor. So talk to me a little bit about that, because I think that's one thing that people often miss. And I've had sponsors and mentors through my career, really. And it's amazing how being able to speak to someone to give you that guidance, that outside look, and how powerful that can be.
I cannot stress enough how important having a mentor is. And I'm saying having a mentor, but you know, you don't have to box yourself into one mentor. I have several different mentors for
Okay.
several different things. So I have a business mentor. Then I also have a mentor, a spiritual mentor. I also have a kind of marriage couple mentor,
Which is important for home
which
life.
is
Yeah.
absolutely important, and it's just really, really, really. And then I also have a business coach, which isn't a mentor and is a coach. But it's so important to have a mentor that will provide counsel, that will provide reason, that voice of reason, and that will provide experience and knowledge. You know, if they've gone through it or they've experienced it, then why would you try and reinvent the wheel? Right, you listen to them, and
Very
then
true.
and you listen to them, and you take on their feedback and their experience, and then you can get to your destination quicker. And one of the things that I absolutely love about my mentor is that if he doesn't know, then he'll connect me with people that does know,
Yeah.
and we will come to an answer or a solution. And it's incredibly important because it's that accountability piece. I worry sometimes when I have my mentor meetings. I have one every month, and it's just incredible. And I do worry a lot because I'm like, have I done what I meant to do? Like,
Well, it keeps you accountable,
yeah,
doesn't it, at
exactly.
the end of the day? Yeah, yeah.
Do I go to this meeting and not bring my stuff that I was meant to bring? Like, um, and it just allows you to get things done, and it allows you to think differently. Mentorship is incredibly important. So yes, I have a mentor, and equally I also mentor, and that's an important facet as well. Like I feel like if you want to mentor, but you're not willing to mentor, there's kind of like a cognitive dissonance there. And you know, and I believe in karma. I believe in you give what you
Yeah.
receive, and all of that good stuff. And I just believe that be a teacher, but also be a student. And what you don't want to do is me, and absorb,
Yeah.
but have nowhere to let it out. I
Yeah.
think that's an incredible part of the jigsaw.
Yeah.
And you know, people think, oh, I need a mentor, and you do. You need a mentor, absolutely. But part of your responsibility as well is you also need to mentor
Yeah.
and have a mentee, and don't be one of those ladder grabbers that just wants for yourself, and I'm up the top and I'm going to grab the ladder up and help nobody else. I think that's totally unreasonable. And I think you
I
need
think
to.
there's too much of that in the society at the moment. And I struggle with it a lot because especially when you start looking at social constructs and, economic mobility. There's a lot of, well, I've done okay, so I'm just going to leave. I'm
Yeah.
okay, so I'm sweet. Like,
Oh.
you figure out.
Oh
It's
my
like,
goodness.
where's the joy in that?
Yeah.
Like, where is the
Yeah.
joy in that?
Yeah.
Like, what legacy do you want to? I mean, for me, I want to be able to help people understand what to do better with money and be able to get on the road to investing sooner. Because I'm 42 in November. I wish I knew all this stuff that I know now
Wow.
when I was 25.
Yeah.
Like, if I did, my life would be completely different. So for me, I'm like, I want to be able to share that knowledge to help other people and hopefully be able to get them to pull themselves up the ladder and, offer that help, particularly when it comes to people from our community. And this is probably the last bit that I want to talk to you about around diversity and inclusion, because I think in our community, there isn't enough representation. There aren't enough examples of people like us who have worked in professional environments or have businesses that younger kids from our neighborhoods can look at and say, well, actually, I can definitely do what that guy did. You don't have to be a footballer. You don't have to be a rapper. You don't have to be doing all of this stuff that is
No.
typical within our communities in terms of outlook. For me, that's going to be my biggest piece of legacy. And it excites me just to be able to think about the fact that actually a kid could look at me and think, actually, and I'm not smart. Like, I'm not Stephen Hawking or anything like that. I'm just a normal guy. If I've done okay, any kid can do it exactly the same. And I think when it comes to diversity and inclusion in business, how important do you think that is?
You know, I read once that somebody was saying when it comes to diversity and inclusion in business, you know, could you create a successful business without diversity and inclusion? Absolutely, of course you can. But the other question that followed was, could you sustain a successful business without diversity and inclusion? And the answer to that will be absolutely not. Your business will die without that diversity of thought, with that inclusion of different people and different thinking and doing things differently. It will just absolutely die. You cannot have a sustainable business without thinking about how to incorporate D&I into the mix. And when I look at different businesses and I look at some of the successful businesses that have done really well over a short period of time, businesses like Gymshark and stuff like that, and brands such as that, they put diversity and inclusion at the core of what they do. And it's almost like they don't speak about it. It's just embedded in the culture.
Yeah.
And they don't need to think, well, what are we doing about diversity inclusion? It is just there. It's there by nature. It's innate to their very being and their very core. And I think it's so important. And representation matters, right? You know, we know that representation matters. And you know, I reflect back on my journey, and you know, just speaking about mentorship, there was a particular, you know, black person within the Midlands that was doing absolutely amazing things when I first came into the space. And I asked him, you know, would you mentor me? The answer was no, and I'm not going to go down that road because I still get a bit when I think about it. But the fact is that he didn't have to mentor me. The very fact that I saw a prominent black business figure in the space that I wanted to enter, in my view, was mentoring-ish enough, because it kind of reassured me that if he could do it, I could do it, because he's there, he looks like me, we've had some of the similar challenges than me, that I have had, but he's still in this space doing amazing things. And I just think representation will always be key, and it just brings a different dimension to any organization, and a different way of doing things, and different cultures, and different, you know, and when we speak about diversity inclusion, people think, oh, automatically, you know, we need to focus on race. And actually, no, you need to focus on all 9 characteristics to really to understand. Like I'm right now, I am very big on women. I'm very big on particularly black women. And I literally turned down an event that I was meant to speak at in a few months' time because there was no black women on the panel. And I'm like, I'm stepping down so I can make space for
somebody else,
a black woman.
Yeah.
Because actually the topic that we're speaking about affects black women the most, because the topic was about diversity and inclusion. But black women are the ones that are marginalized the most out of every community and every demographic. So why are we not including them on the panel?
Why do you not have that voice?
Why
to
exactly?
give their perspective?
So I was
actually,
like,
from a more genuine place,
Absolutely.
based on experience. Because with all due respect, you're not a woman.
Yeah,
so you can't speak
absolutely.
from that point of view. You can speak from it from one angle, but not the full picture.
Absolutely. So I was like, I will step down, and here's a list of 5 amazing black business women that you can speak to today to have on your panel. And for me, that's the commitment that I made to myself within the D&I space. If I don't believe that something is right, if I don't believe that it's not sitting with me, if I don't believe that there's enough representation, if I don't believe that it's not reflective of the society that we live in, if I believe that it's discriminating in some kind of way by not including a certain demographic, then I'll step down and I won't associate myself with that project or event or anything like that. So yeah, I just think, going back to the question at hand, without diversity and inclusion, your business will not survive 12 months.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah, I would completely agree. In the workplaces, you need varying views from different backgrounds. I think, particularly if you're in a product or service led business, that actually enriches your proposition, enriches your offering, because you can come from different walks of life and develop a product or a service that caters to that varied view of the world and not just one kind of like microcosm or example of what you think is reality. And I think it's absolutely crucial that, you know, D&I remains on the agenda. As controversial as some people like to make it, it's very simple, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it should be simple as that. To finish this off, I do want to ask you what your biggest lessons in business thus far have been.
So my biggest lessons in business, such a great question. And I would say the first lesson is understand your cash flow. Like, and as a finance person yourself, you would know that your cash flow is absolutely everything. Understand what's coming in and what's going out. Understand your projections. Just understand your cash flow, because for me, the first year that I was in business, I really didn't have a clue. Like, I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing here? And it just made everything difficult. And in the end, I had to pay my accountant to sit down with me for a good week to be like, right, we need to understand the cash flow. I need to understand the numbers. I need to understand my business. It's my baby. And if somebody asks me, I want to be able to say X, Y, Z. So understanding your cash flow is one of the biggest things I would say within business, and one big lesson that I learned, because it's do or die. Like, if you don't understand it, your business is going to die straight up. So that's a huge lesson. Another lesson that I would say is understand the power of your personal brand.
Okay.
I think that is one of the crucial lessons, because when I was building my personal brand, I had no idea that I was building it. I was just doing it because it was just because. And now I reflect, a lot of the opportunities that have come my way is because of the power of my personal brand, and it's because people resonate with me, and I bring value, and they know that I'm going to deliver because of the power of my personal brand. You know, I can throw an event next week and be like, oh, I need 5 sponsors, and be able to pick up my phone and say, I'm throwing this event. This is the blurb. Would you sponsor it? Of course I will, True. Because that's the power of my personal brand, because I've built that, and I've built that reputation. So it really is about understanding the power of, and start doing things and being intentional and working on your personal brand from the very beginning. And the last one I would probably say is systems and processes. Like, for me, that's a huge aspect in business. It doesn't matter if you're a one-man band, or it doesn't matter if you've got a workforce of 500. Start systemizing your business, and start at a very basic level. Look at all your functions of your business. So if it's a product-based business or an e-commerce business, you know, look at your sales, look at your marketing, look at your HR, look at all aspects of your business, and then literally just break it down in bullet points, step-by-step guide. So a customer comes in, they buy it, they look, they browse, you know, is there a script that you need to tell them? Like, the staff, like, literally break it down and start that process, and then look at ways, how could you systemize it? And, you know, the basic example, if you get an email in, have you got an automated response to say how long you're going to reply to that email? Do you have a funnel system where people can be funneled down? How could you systemize your business, and how could you process map your business so everybody knows exactly what it is? Because, you know, my business coach, and she's just incredible at, shout out Daniela, incredible at systemizing and processing. And she always says, if you was to get ill tomorrow, would your business stop? And if your business will stop because you've been taken out of the business as the leader, then you haven't got robust systems and processes, and you need to do it immediately. And it's so true. And we sat down and we literally systemized and process map every aspect of the business, which is just incredible. So systems and processes will be the next thing.
So much wisdom there. And I think, in the second part of this, maybe we can elaborate on that a little bit more. Because I think for people who are listening, they'll think, okay, how do you get started? What do you actually mean? Examples, you've given an example there. But I think there's so much more to go in terms of what that actually looks like for people looking who are either entrepreneurs or starting out their business and want some real practical tips. We'll cover that in the second part of this podcast. To finish this one off, how do people find you? What's the socials? How do people get in touch with you if they want to?
Yeah, of course. So you guys can find me at truepower.com. That's my website, truepower.com, and you'll find all of the businesses and stuff that I'm doing all connected to the website. I'm an active social media user, so that's true_power on all social media platforms, which is Instagram, Twitter, Facebook is just True Powell. I think that's it really. But yeah, true_power, and that's TRU without the E.
Excellent. And guys, listen, if you've not listened to the podcast, definitely go and listen to the podcast. It's pretty freaking epic. And the guests are an envy straight off the bat. Some amazing guests. So go and listen.
I had to pull out the A-listers for that one.
Indeed. So go and listen to the podcast. But yes, we're going to come back with a part 2 to this. I hope you learned something. But remember, whenever we have these kind of conversations on the podcast, and if you are watching this on YouTube as well, I do talk about money and I talk about investing. That's my main focus, really. That's where I have my skill set and my expertise. But when we talk about money, you have to earn money. So you're either going to get it from an employed work or you're going to have to start businesses or side hustles. And we're talking a little bit about side hustles as well. But the whole point of this is, in my slogan, realizing the truth that money is a tool, life is for living. You got to earn the money and you got to put it to good use. But until next Monday, guys, catch you later on.
Thank you. Bye-bye.